Today's program is on the strengths and weaknesses of the North Carolina Department of Corrections, as well as its future. I think, Chris, are you going to introduce the speaker, please?
Ms. Bianca Harris serves as the director of Meredith College's online Master of Arts in Criminal Justice program. Ms. Harris, who brings more than 20 years of professional experience in the criminal justice field, coordinates the graduate program. Her responsibilities include teaching courses, recruiting students, and supervising an advisory board made up of the top professionals in the field. She has extensive experience in the field of criminal justice management, having served both as a warden of the North Carolina Correctional Institution for Women before moving to the position of district manager of alcohol and chemical dependency unit of the State Department of Public Safety. Ms. Harris's specific areas of expertise are particularly suited for the Meredith program's emphasis on substance abuse, gender and juvenile justice, and she has strong connections with the private security industry, state and federal agencies, and nonprofit organizations and police and sheriff's offices throughout North Carolina. So we welcome her to our podium, and she looks forward not only to talking with you, but to answering your questions. Hint, hint.
I'll start behind the podium, so we'll see if I stay there.
If you don't stay there, the reason we've got a double mic is because of the money. That's why this is.
Okay, oh, that's awesome. As I kind of told Chris when I started, let me start by adding more things to my probably resume that you found. Again, the majority of my career started as I spent all of my adult life. I started out at 20 at women's prison. So I started as a correctional officer, and I stayed all of my time except 5 years. I spent 29 years with the Department of Public Safety, and then I retired. But again, so my expertise is really with working with the female offender. And I will always say that will always be working with females inside and transitioning out, because women are truly the forgotten number when it comes to incarceration and those transitioning out. So let me say that. I'm going to say she, but I do mean everybody. But that being said, when Chris and I talked about what can I possibly talk about? What are the strengths? What are the challenges when it comes to incarceration? You all talked about the high recidivism rate, and I think the quote was around 40%. I'm sure it's higher than that, actually. And that's just to be fair. Why, we ask, and what can we do to fix that? Well, I mean, here's the thing, the conversation I want to have, and I'll say this to you, I'm a question and answer person. And if I can't answer it, I'll tell you that. And one of the things that I am very much known for is to be very frank and deliver the truth that everybody doesn't always like, and that is what it is. Does corrections always get it right? Of course not. But nor does most of the community. Well, people forget about prison. Prison is it's a small community. It's a reflection of the community. And it is always very challenging to understand how we demand of prison what we can't fix in the community. You know, you can't solve what you can't solve in the community, you know? So that's one of the big challenges that happens inside of the facility. You know, I being the warden and being the deputy warden, being the security captain, you know, all those things of responsibility that I've had throughout my career, and the criticisms that always come with all of those positions, really. You know, why couldn't you? Why didn't you provide better health care? You know, well, prison is a business. At the end of the day, it's cost involved in that. And so we will provide as we can, but we have to answer to someone too. And so we will provide as we can. And there are systems in prison just as there are systems in the community. You know? So you know, I'm not going to say that if Bob is hurt, that we won't provide for him, because we will. But there's still systems, just like in the community. You know, one of the hardest things that I had to face as the administrator was having my staff manage inside of a facility, and my ladies receive premier health care, and my staff can't afford that. You know, I was the warden in charge of building, actually, the opening the healthcare center that's at Women's Now. It's staffed with UNC medical. Those doctors administer care for those women. So you know, outside people, those of us who pay taxes every day, sometimes can't get an appointment with UNC doctors. You realize that, right? That's challenging for my staff to not be able to do that. So one of the challenges is a great word I'm going to use. I chose not to use the word weakness. And I also chose not to truly always, I'm not going to hone in on North Carolina, because it's a problem of corrections in the United States. You know, we're a country that has no one governing body for incarceration. You know, we have 50 states, 50 different ways that you do it. You know, and so, oh my God, that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, but the point is, so that's challenging. It's a challenge to do that. It's a challenge to bring together many people, many cultures within this little tiny place and run it. Try to run it in such a way that people aren't always fighting with each other. Because remember, on the outside, you get the news that says the world is coming to an end in prison, everybody's being mistreated, but it's the news. So you get what makes things newsworthy. There are 1,000 prisons in the United States. Everybody didn't make the news. So there are things that aren't newsworthy. Every prison isn't being run poorly. There are things that, okay, but I agree with the gentleman, and I apologize, I don't remember the name, but I agree that the thing that we really need to work on is reentry. Because the last statistic, 88% are coming home. They're going to be your neighbor. And it is the most egregious thing in the history of man that somebody is incarcerated, leaves prison illiterate. That makes no sense. Because they could be educated in prison. You know, they could be treated for substance use. They could be treated for their mental health concerns. They could begin that path back. All these things could happen if the opportunity is there. But remember, Prison is not rehabilitation. It's the opportunity for rehabilitation. Now, I used to tell my ladies, I'm gonna give you every opportunity known to man. Now, the only thing I was a little out of the lines for, the law says, just as in the world, certain ages have to get an education. You all know that. If you're under 16 or, that. But for me, if you were under the age of 25, you going to school. If I had to handcuff you, no, it's right, I'm being recorded, I can't say that. But I didn't believe in that. So under the age of 25, you were going to school. And most of the ladies, I mean, some of them were kicking and screaming, but you understand a 22, 23-year-old who couldn't read is embarrassing. But boy, was she proud when she could read. But again, you have to know your audience. It's different working with women and children than it is with male command. That's a different audience, So the challenges are there. The challenges are now looking at this, just like you see in the community, you look at our world now. All the chaos we have in our world, the people that we have in our world, pick them up, put them in prison. Those are the same people coming to prison. So we're challenged with managing those same people now. We're challenged with a staff that isn't there. We're challenged that if we do have the staff, half of them don't want to be there. And so we're raising kids to manage kids. It's a challenge. So corrections is going through a lot of challenges. I think that they are doing well in some areas. I think there's a lot of things that they're trying to get right. One of the reasons why I'm even in the college system right now is because I have to find and educate people to take my place. And I have to try and teach the same beliefs that I have to treat people as people, because the punishment happened in court. The punishment I don't give in prison. That's very hard for a lot of people to believe. And you have to teach that. So it's a cultural thing. And I don't know. I mean, again, I'm a question and answer person, so I could talk all day long about issues. So start with the questions and let us go from there. Like I was telling Chris, questions, curiosities, anybody? Yeah. Oh, do we have a mic to pass around? Yeah, help me out with that, because I could just randomly talk about many things.
I'm going to mention very quickly a quick commercial break. I'm going to pass around the baskets, but that'll be happening while we take questions. And Atish can maybe say a couple words about our tiny little rules, and then we'll put you right back there.
Oh, I'm leaving. Okay.
Well, thank you for your presentation. We are a society who receive no outside funding, and we survive with our own, with our internal funding and commitment. We're an all volunteer organization, so we are passing out the baskets. We'll go into question and answer as the baskets are going around. There's some fundamental rules about it. Please raise your hand. More or someone will be there with a mic. Ask a question, make it relevant, make it short, because we would like to accommodate as many people as we possibly can in this question and answer. All right.
Miss Bianca, right back up in the hot seat. And we'll start with you.
Yeah, hi. a very shocking recent article in the New Yorker about how mental health patients are literally starved and don't receive the kind of treatment that they should. And they said it was not isolated, that this was widespread. And it shocked me because this is something that maybe 50 years ago I would have read about, but not now. Have you experienced this?
I'm gonna answer now. I'm gonna actually answer that for North Carolina. You know, Dorothy Dix closed in North Carolina, so the mental health system in North Carolina went to heck. And the prison system picked up the slack. It should not. So yeah, we need help. There are a lot of people who, if the world was where it should be, should not be in prison. They should be treated elsewhere because perhaps their behavior was because of the mental health status, which made them commit that particular crime, which is why they ended up in prison. We did the best, we're doing the best we can. I mean, we have mental health people who try to treat them, but they probably don't need to be there. Now, I grew up, again, I started in prison in 1992. In 1992, I thought it was the coolest assignment ever to be assigned to Dorothy Dix, because that was my assignment. I had 5 offenders who were remanded to Dorothy Dix. And so I just walked in Dorothy Dix and, hey, how y'all doing? It was awesome. Great. I was assigned, there was 2 officers from women's prison on the 3rd floor, 3 officers from CP on the 4th floor. But we lost Dorothy Dix. And we lost some other things. And the mental health for the community lost some things. And so, yes, I think the mental health, and I think that's a compounded issue because mental health treatment in the community is just not where we need it to be. And judges, the court system has to do something. That's what I can say.
Legislature.
Yep.
Just following up a little bit on Hugh's question. I spent a lot of time visiting at a federal prison, Butner Low. And yeah, I run across in my visits many people with who had, I would say, serious mental issues that needed treatment. And they clearly weren't getting it. And again, it's for the same reasons in the federal prison as it is in the state prisons, I believe. Lack of money, lack of training on the staff, a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
So my question was going to be, all my experiences with federal prisons, how different are the NC state prisons from the federal prisons in North Carolina, which is primarily Butner?
Yeah. Obviously, I can't truly speak on the federal system because I'm not in it. You know, I have friends, Art Bueller, you know, Art. Anyway, I have friends in federal system, so I can't truly speak. What I know about the federal system and the state system, they are similar. But yeah, I really don't want to compare because I can't. I don't know it. From a mental health, from a treatment standpoint, what I can say to you is we have, you know, the behavioral health people, mental health staff are good staff. The problem is there are not enough of them. The environment is not there capable to truly, some people need one-on-one treatment. I mean, that's just a fact. And it's not an environment that has the ability to always be able to deliver that one-on-one treatment that some of these offenders may need. You know, I had an inpatient mental health setting that truly had the capability of treating 12 acute patients. But remember, I had a facility of 1,600. You know what I'm saying? But then I had a step-down unit from the acute, so let's call it semi-acute, that truly could manage an additional 24. But again, I'm at 1,600. I had an outpatient mental health building that housed another 68. But again, 1,600. So, but especially for females, the statistic for females is that, again, we're up hovering around almost 80% that are coming in with some sort of dual diagnosis, whether that's substance use or mental health and mental health, coupled with something, 1,600. And I just gave you that I'm actively treating about 80. So we just, you know, and then don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that we're not doing day treatment. And we did. We had a robust day treatment program, a robust group treatment program. But again, it's still 1,600. My healthcare staff was hovering around 70. But these people have to be off. They have to go home. They have to rotate. So it's, you know, that's still a huge number of people. And you just, you can't, and they still, I think even now, they probably are hovering around probably 40 to 50 people. And the population is more around, I think the population now is more about almost 1,900 now. So it's big.
I just wanted to share with you that the member of our organization that I referred to, who is now out of prison and is freed, while he was in prison and the brief time that I knew him there, he had really bad cataracts. And so the prison system got him to actually for a while, they were taking him to an optometrist who didn't seem to understand what the problem was. So they eventually took him to an ophthalmologist, and the ophthalmologist, my impression is, told him he was legally blind, that his cataracts were so bad. So within, not soon enough for him, but eventually he was able to get cataract surgery, and now he can see just fine. So, you know, is the prison system perfect? No, but he got treatment. He got, and it's not cheap treatment either to get, both eyes needed surgery.
I was wondering if the criminal justice system had any champions in the legislature or even in the other departments that might oversee the system.
Champions as in, what do you mean?
People who would advocate for them.
I mean, yeah, of course. We have many people who advocate for us. The problem, I guess the question is, are they advocating and everybody know it? No. Because it's not popular. You know, that's the problem. It's not popular. I mean, our governor now is a great advocate. His wife, great advocate. They are both advocates. You know, now the governor, he's not going to be able to jump up and down. Yes, I support that. I mean, the man's a politician. He can't do it. You see what I'm saying? But, you know, if you look up the first lady, reentry is her baby. That is what she does. She believes in it wholeheartedly. But will you find that in the news? Probably not. You see what I'm saying? There are a lot of great advocates. But prison reform is just not that thing. That's what I was telling this couple. I'm sorry, I forgot. I probably would never forget your face, though. I'm good at that.
Dick and Carol.
And I'm, that's the thing, there's a lot of people that work tirelessly in prison reform. You just don't hear about it.
So anecdotally, I've heard stories about how prevalent gangs are in men's prisons.
Mhm.
Is that also the case in women's prison?
Well, so is your question, I need to ask this. Is your question, are gangs violent in women's prison, or is your question, are gangs present in women's prison?
Present.
Of course.
Quick follow-up. Ballpark guess, what % of the inmate population is affiliated with a gang?
20%.
Okay, thank you.
Are they violent? If they have to be, but not women, just like in the street. See, this is my question. This is what I'm gonna say to you. Women, unlike men have to stake their space. Women mess with me and I mess with you. That's how women work, just like in the street. Most women don't bother you unless you bother them. But men have to make sure you understand where their space is. So, like I said, for a women's prison, I used to tell I was in charge of gangs for 12 years. I never treated, like I told my women, I knew who they were, but I would treat you like a gang member when you proved to me you're a gang member. You only knew most women are gangs when they strip down to nothing when you see their tats. But when they speak to you, yes, ma'am, how you doing? You see what I'm saying? So only when you disrespect them, then they'll be violent. And that's why I used to tell young officers, don't go up to an inmate, because she is an inmate. She's there for a reason, and be disrespectful because you can. You don't have to do that. Just like in the street. Why would you go up to somebody in a club? Why are you going up in a club to somebody you don't know and be disrespectful just because you can? In this environment, these people have already proven to somebody that they can be better than you. So this is not the place for that. But for the most part, women don't have to do that. But men, that's different. Men, the rules are different. The rules are, I need to prove before someone else does. It's different. So you need to know that. And that's what when you speak about safety and security and understanding how to protect yourself in male facilities, you need to know your audience. Gangs are everywhere. Personal space and defending yourself is important in any prison. Working with females is a little bit different. Women can be dangerous now. Don't get me wrong. I had women who do work on the same mode of operation. Now they'll be aggressive and they can hurt you. But for the most part, we will respect our space. But that's a good question.
Hey, I used to work at Meredith, and your program came in about the time I was leaving. And I can't remember if it's an undergraduate or graduate program, quite frankly. But graduate? Graduate. So the reason that Meredith lost most of its teaching program was because nobody was paying for it. And my question is this: do the people who get a graduate degree, do they get any extra pay for that? And do prisons give any preference to people who have a sociology background as opposed to a military prison background? Because I've known both streams to go into being prison guards, for example.
So yes, you do get more pay for education. And the thing about one, having the graduate degree and being a part of the Graduate Honor Society, especially working with federal agencies, working in private security positions and working with just a few companies, there's a bump in pay grade for having the graduate degree as well. So it has become more valuable in the last 10 years, yes. My goal, in addition to that, is just having a education that is a little bit different. The one thing about my particular, and just to say, I helped write this program. So this program is not a traditional program. It is a program that's completely written on a practical platform. We do not, every professor in my program has to be a practitioner because the book, here's what I told, I told the president at the time,
Joe?
yep, I told Joe that most of the book can't prepare you for working with people. You know, my undergrad degree came from UNC and it was in criminal justice. And you can rarely find a criminal justice liberal art true degree anymore. So, and I love my sociology people, love them to death, but this theory about all this stuff is irrelevant because I need you to actually talk to people and really understand and meet people where they are, not where you think they are. And it's amazing to me how many people try to work in criminal justice and write programs and write rules and regulations about how prison should be, and you've never met an inmate. You know, I had a when I was at women's prison, the warden that I worked for, and as I became a warden, we had a deal with the judges, you know, the whole Supreme Court of North Carolina. You'd be shocked. I would challenge any of you. Ask a judge, has he ever been in prison? Come step foot in a prison, and you will be shocked how many have never been. I was sued. Of course, when you're a warden, you're sued half the time. It's okay. But the point is, and I was talking to this judge screaming. It was terrible. And anyway, he said something that was really weird to me. And I looked at him, that makes no sense. And he looked back to me, what do you mean? And so anyway, it was about housing, it was about beds. It was about someone sleeping, a bed assignment. And he couldn't believe what I was saying. And then we took a side and he had never been to a prison. I invited him to come. Yeah. Well, and it started a relationship. So he and some of his friends or whatever. So anyway, every year, a group of them came to see us. But I don't think they share that with a lot of people because it's, you know, something you don't necessarily admit, but they came.
Before I hand over the mic to John, when you were talking about these people writing books for programs about prisons and having never actually been in one and seen one, it made me think about a bunch of blind men trying to describe an elephant.
Absolutely. I cannot, oh, it burns me up. It's one of my pet peeves in life.
Is your department very dependent on federal funding? And if so, for the future, do you see that being a problem?
No, my department is not. My department is not. I am a one-man show at Meredith, actually. I remember, so let me explain that. Again, I came from state government. So when I came to Dr. Allen to sell this program, I sold this program to Meredith. I asked them, will they, you know, take a risk? So the only thing that Meredith is paying for is my salary. That's it. Because my adjuncts are part-time. And I'm the only full-time person. And essentially, you know, there's a formula, obviously, that I have to have a certain amount of people to offset my salary and my adjuncts. And essentially, I get help from the sociology department. I have one faculty who helps me, and she's a tenured employee. And basically, she helps because the world is awesome to her. You know, Dr. Lori Brown is my partner in life, and she just loves my program. She loves this program. She wants to see it succeed. And we are successful. I mean, I'm in my 4th year. I'm graduating 5 this year. And we have enrolled, we have right now enrolled almost 17. And we are trying to grow it. Meredith has, we have a new president now, Dr. Amy Sapp, and her team has decided to put behind us a campaign to recruit more people. I mean, online is where it's at. This is what I tell them. I mean, because the military community, correctional community, policing, we can reach everyone online. And I love it. You know, I think it's such a great opportunity to reach people who may be scared to come in the classroom. And we present the courses in a way that mom who hasn't been in the class in 20 years, I'm not speaking as though, you know, I am some far-reaching PhD person. I'm not doing that.
So is the entire program, is it currently an online only program? How does that work?
Online, we're the only program that's 100% online.
Okay. And do they do master's thesis with this program, or is it a non-thesis master?
Non-thesis.
Okay.
Yep. So you,
What sort of age range are your students that you have so
oh,
far?
wow. My youngest student is 19 and my oldest student is 51.
Maybe you can help me understand this. So you have a totally online digital program. And one of your comments earlier was you can't go into a prison or into a facility without dealing with real people. So how do your students get that experience with real people?
Most of them are a part of reentry. One of the things that I am, well, you don't know, but my couple here knows, in my other life, I work a lot, as you can see. In my other life, am a part of 4 organizations here in North Carolina. I am a part of Our Journey. Our Journey is a nonprofit organization where our executive director and basically everybody on the board, except myself and the president, are all previously incarcerated. And what we do is help offenders transition back into the community. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I hope you all look it up and come and be a part of that organization if you like. I'm also a part of Design for Joy, which assists women who have been a part of human trafficking, sex trafficking, earn a living wage. If you come and help us out, that'll be awesome. I'm a part of Insecure. Insecure is an organization that continues to help people, and I, of course, concentrate on women, who are still incarcerated. They are the only organization in North Carolina who helps those who remain behind bars. And we do that. And I'm a part of the Wake Community Foundation, which is a part of North Carolina Foundation. And we try to give funds to our citizens in North Carolina for things that the nonprofit community needs, whether that's educational grants or other grants that nonprofit organizations need. And we encourage them to apply for things that they need. So to answer you, what I do with undergrads and graduate students at Meredith and any other college, if they reach out to me, is I help connect them with nonprofit organizations who can help them with that particular piece. So one of the organizations that I love to endorse is Arise Collective. Arise Collective is, used to be Interfaith Women's, and I'm not saying that correctly. I forgot. Anyway, Arise Collective is the premier, in my opinion, organization for females in North Carolina. It helps with their reentry back into the community, but the whole gambit. For whether it's education, programming, housing, to help them transition back into the community. So we will help them.
When you say that you encourage them to work with, is it a supervised internship?
Yeah. I'll get them internships. I've helped them actually secure jobs with some of these organizations as well. So if they have openings, if it's the right fit, I'll help with that as well.
And it is as a cross conversation. In a sense, I know that Meredith had a problem at some point because we were doing internships, but we were not supervising. And there was a deliberate change in emphasis that I hope is still there, which says, we are not sending you off so that somebody can make a glorified secretary of you.
Mhm.
We are sending you off so that you get experience in the field, and you, as the receiver of our intern, must prove to us that you are teaching them something about the subject they're interning in.
Mhm.
And as I say, they're not just being a glorified, somebody's secretary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I will say to you that, in other fields, I know what you're saying. I'm very selective on who I send, especially from the undergraduate level. I do not, they are truly somebody's children. In criminal justice, when they're under the age of 20, I really don't deal with them a lot, to be honest, because I am dealing with the formerly incarcerated. I don't have time sometimes to screen some of the charges that we're dealing with. So I'm very selective in that. But sometimes to be glorified secretaries is what they need. And that's what they're going to get. But you have to watch what they do. Criminal justice is different. And that's what I'll say to that. So I do manage that, what I do. Dr. Brown manages the arm from me to her in criminal justice. Now, Soch does something a little bit different from the undergrad standpoint.
Learning something when they're there.
Trust me, that is so true.
In your position as warden, what was your reentry program or preparation like?
Well, when we were there, when I was there, reentry is as good as the connections on the outside. So, our biggest problem, as it probably is today, we had TAN and the LRCs and many old connections in the community, which is why I'm saying Arise, Interfaith, and many of our partners. When I was there, I had 400 volunteers, and they were the cornerstone of women's prison. So our transitions back into communities were decent. They weren't 100% because the key is a lot of people reentry plans or home plans were back home. We spent a lot of time. The thing that people forget about women is that, or the system requires home plans, transition home plans. So a lot of offenders, because they want to get out, they want it secured, they give home. Well, for women, what is home? Home is the pimp. Or back to your abuser. Great point. So we spend a lot of time trying to circumvent that. The problem is it's hard to circumvent when it's your legal husband. It's hard to circumvent when it's the person who has your children. So we had more things. That's what people don't understand. There are more issues that come back when it's women. You know, it's not just, let's jump on the reentry bandwagon. There are a lot of things that come with women. So it was good because we had a lot of partners that helped us. You know, I can tell you, looking at the Fayetteville, Wilmington area, great partners there. They would help watch when we had concerns in that area. I like to say that. Mecklenburg, we had some good partners there.
Linda.
When we had concerns about cases, and we had people there. We had some partners who would look out, and we know we're sending this person there to what we suspect was a situation that was going to easily turn south. But
Linda, can you hear me, Linda? Linda.
Phil should have got to type it, yeah. Oh. In the meantime, if our Zoom person can figure out what she's doing. My biggest question for you at this time is a little bit of a follow-up on some of what you've been talking about with your different volunteers and so forth, which is what would be the best ways for some of us to get involved, to
Wow.
help?
Well, you know, again, you know, as I said, if it's not nonprofits that you know about, or your local LRCs, or even contacting the reentry arm of the adult corrections, you know, they certainly are open to it. I'm actually sure of that. How often they will invite you to come, I can't answer that.
So reentry would be the place where they need the most help, probably?
Well, it's the place that the public, that
It's most able
volunteers
to do, okay.
are most able to help.
Okay.
And again, the local reentry centers are the place where volunteers community is most welcome.
Okay.
Can you define the acronym NRC? I've heard it. a couple
Local
times.
reentry center.
Oh, okay.
What's the?
No, LRC. Yeah, local reentry center. Yeah.
So, have you had to deal with the issue of trans women in prison?
I'm sorry.
Have you had to deal with any issues with any trans women in prison?
I have not. During my time, I only had one true, and when she came, she had completed her transition. The only thing that we had to do was continue her meds. And we had a small fight for that, but North Carolina is actually the North Carolina medical part of it in the system believed that if the meds were started, then the meds would continue. So we didn't have a problem there.
Just,
The man I referred to when we were talking in private earlier, who's has been released from prison, and he would like to start some kind of, in fact, he would like to set up some type of reentry house in Nashville. Would you be a person that he could contact about that? Or
No. But you know what? Honestly, if he reached out to Brian Scott, who is the executive director for our journey. Brian would definitely be
Okay.
a wealth of probably information for him.
Great.
He could probably point him in a better, more wealth, more information than I can, honestly.
Great.
Yeah, I think that I mentioned this to you, that when Dick and I came down to North Carolina, which was a little over a year ago, and we had been working in New York, there was no way to start. Except John helped me when he told me, and I went on the website and there was reentry and a name. There were 4 reentry places in Durham, and I contacted all of them. One of them answered, and that was the one that gave me a number. And the gentleman told me to come to Hillsborough, Weaver Market, Friday between 8:30 and 11. And we did. And we found a community there of people who were helping in the county prison of people coming out. But there's no, we looked for it. There's no way of really talking about people who want to help where they can go. That's one. The other is the perception that once in prison, you're a criminal for life. And the kinds of opportunities to make the public, because it's the public perception, law and order is getting after the bad guys. There's no, everybody wants safety on the streets, but there's no understanding of people. And once a criminal, you're not always a criminal. And people walk around with that designation. And it's so wrong.
Absolutely.
And I had mentioned that yesterday afternoon, Dick and I were invited up to Hillsborough, where men, and again, it's men, you know, you don't think women are around.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. But men who had been in prison or were still in prison, part of a writing group, wrote poetry. I will tell you that experience in that room, hearing either the guys talk or someone reading for them, they were still in prison, was the most emotional and rewarding experience. And I went home and I said, I want to write to the governor. I started a letter and then it disappeared on my computer. But I want to literally, I go, you know, I go. But to write to the governor, who I do know cares, that it would be wonderful if in the legislature, packed audience, some of these people can read their poems. That's all, because it gives you more awareness of the humanity behind what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take it a step further. There are some, you know, reading poems, writing poems are those who are incarcerated who are literate people. But there are people in prison who have suffered trauma, who may not be articulate, who may not be able to communicate through the written word, but who can communicate through drawing. The paintings and the art that the incarcerated individual creates is breathtaking. And I'll tell you that the community college puts on an art show every year for the incarcerated. I will give you all an invitation for you to come. And as a group, it's a great outing for you all to have. They usually have it. I'm trying to get that entire showing to come to Meredith. I got to try to work that out. But anyway, but that's okay if it doesn't. Anyway, when they show all their art, and it actually comes to you have Orange Correctional here. Exactly. I think it may have been a few years. It came through there. And if it comes near you all, I'll let you know. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Anywhere in the triangle that it might come, because we have members who are from all the
Exactly.
triangle area. So
Yeah. But we obviously, it's just something that, again, just like when we're talking about advocates, it's just something that the system just doesn't, you can't raise your hand and say, hey, look at this. I have a lady who she did 26 years in prison. When she was released, a gallery in Charlotte picked her up. And so when I made warden, the two previous wardens went to Charlotte and bought me a painting from her. So I have it hanging in my office. Anyway, the point is beautiful. So to your point, yes.
I just want to say, I think all that sort of thing is particularly important in today's political climate, because first of all, you have people like the president of our entire nation othering people all over the place, and all these supposedly bad criminals who are hitting old ladies on the back of the head and so therefore should go to jail in El Salvador now. I mean, you've got so many othering instances, and somebody coming out of prison, they check off the box of so many others. And the more we can make it we and not us and them, the better.
So true. Totally agree.
And we're getting, Atish, do you want to take over? Thank you, Bianca, so very much.